Episode 1: City That Doesn't Wait. New York City had a way of making people feel small, not physically, but emotionally. Like no matter how hard you tried, the city was always one step ahead of your dreams and 2 steps ahead of your confidence. Isabella Monroe stood at the edge of the sidewalk outside Blackridge Media Group, gripping the strap of her handbag tightly. The building towered above her like a promise she didn't fully trust yet. Glass, steel, power, everything she had worked for over the past 5 years had led to this moment. And yet, her stomach twisted, not from fear, from awareness. Because she knew places like this didn't just hire people, they tested them. And some people didn't survive the test. She exhaled slowly and stepped inside. The lobby was colder than she expected. Not temperature-wise, but in energy. Marble floors, soft gold lighting, people moving like they were part of something bigger than themselves. Everyone looked important. Everyone looked like they belonged, except her. First day? The receptionist asked, barely looking up. Yes, Isabella replied. 40th floor. Orientation. Simple, direct, no emotion wasted. That was rule number 1 in corporate New York. Don't show too much of anything. On the top floor of the same building, Adrian Cole was already losing patience. Not visibly, he never showed it, but internally, everything irritated him. Late reports, delayed approvals, investors asking unnecessary questions, and now, new hires. He glanced at the agenda his assistant placed on his desk. Orientation session, marketing and content division. He didn't remember approving attendance, but his name was on the schedule. That meant someone had already decided for him. He hated that. Cancel my noon meeting, he said calmly. His assistant hesitated. Sir, that's the international call. I said cancel it. No raise in voice. No emotion, just finality. That was Adrian Cole. At 32, he was the youngest CEO in Blackridge history, and the most feared. Not because he shouted, but because he didn't need to. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt longer than it should have. Isabella stared at her reflection in the steel doors. Black curls pinned neatly, minimal makeup, professional dress, controlled expression. She had built this version of herself carefully, because where she came from, softness was a liability. The doors opened. The conference room was already half full. Glass walls, white tables, city skyline stretching endlessly behind them. People were laughing softly, networking, measuring each other silently. Isabella chose a seat near the middle, not too visible, not too invisible, perfect balance. She placed her notebook down and exhaled. This was it, her new life, or the beginning of another disappointment. And then the room changed, not loudly, not dramatically, but instantly. Like oxygen shifted, people stopped talking. Postures adjusted. Silence settled in layers. Isabella looked up instinctively. A man had entered. Tall, dark suit. Slow, controlled movement. He didn't need to introduce himself. Everyone already knew. Adrian Cole, CEO. But that wasn't what struck her. It was the silence he carried with him. Not empty silence. Heavy silence. The kind that made people rethink themselves. He stood at the front of the room, scanning briefly. And then, his eyes landed on her, just for a second, but something in that second tightened the air between them. Isabella looked away first. She didn't mean to, but she did. And for the first time that morning, Adrian noticed someone who didn't hold his gaze. He didn't understand why that bothered him, but it did. Orientation ended without incident. Isabella was assigned to the marketing analytics department, 40th floor, same floor as executive offices. Same floor as Adrian Cole. She didn't know that part yet, not fully, until she stepped into the glass hallway later that afternoon and saw his office doors at the far end. Black, minimalist, imposing, his territory. She swallowed it. She muttered under her breath. Her first task was simple. Data reports, campaign analysis, nothing complicated. Except everything felt complicated when you knew the CEO was somewhere 10 meters away. Every sound felt amplified, every footstep heavier, every breath slightly controlled. And she hated that she was aware of him. Because she wasn't supposed to be a T for 37 p.m., she finally saw him again. Not directly, through glass. He stood in a meeting room with 3 executives, speaking calmly. No raised voice, no gestures, just presence. And yet everyone listened like their jobs depended on his tone. Isabella watched for a second too long, then forced herself to look away, focus, work, survive. That was the plan. It happened at 6:12 p.m. She was leaving late. He was leaving late too. They both reached the elevator at the same time. The doors opened, empty, except for him. Inside, alone, of course, Isabella froze for half a second, then stepped in. The doors closed. Silence. Small space. Too small. His presence changed the air instantly. "You're new," Adrian said finally. Not a question, a statement. "Yes," she replied. A pause. "You work fast." "I work properly," she corrected. That made him look at her more directly. Most people didn't correct him. Most people agreed, or stayed quiet. She did neither. Interesting. The elevator continued downward slowly. Neither of them moved closer, but neither of them relaxed. "What's your name?" he asked. "Isabella." A pause. "Adrian," he said, though she already knew. "I know." That should have ended it, but it didn't, because the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, like something unspoken was pressing against the walls of the elevator. Then, the doors opened. She stepped out first, without hesitation, without looking back, and Adrian Cole stood still for 3 seconds longer than necessary, trying to understand why he suddenly wanted her to stay in that space longer. And that was the beginning, something more dangerous.